Thank you, Sherry. I, Rashid Kapadia, am a very fortunate man. I grew up in India in the 1960s and 70s in a home that was full of love and contentment. My mother and father, they set stellar standards for all their children, all four of us, and they were sterling examples. And if that isn't good fortune enough, my brother happens to be my twin. And if that wasn't good fortune enough, we went to one of the top boarding schools in India, steeped in history, tradition, and excellence, school that's been around longer than there was a civil war here. 60s and 70s, the world was different, United States was different, India was different. And really, we didn't have any Indian dream, but we're going to pretend we did. We had our own version of the Indian dream. It went like this: my son, you can be anything you want as long as it is a doctor or an engineer. So that's what happened. I'm on the left, I become an engineer, my brother becomes the doctor. My voyage into engineering begins in a shipyard. Here, now I was fortunate, I was comfortable. I was exposed to a group of people who were much less educated, much less fortunate than me. And yet, in them, I saw human ingenuity expressed through engineering in a way I had never seen before. I came to relish engineering as a truly great profession. I wanted to be an outstanding engineer. I aspired to be a great engineer. I really did. I spent about 1.5 decades on many ships, including these three. I traveled the world. I worked with all kinds of equipment. A ship is like a floating island. If you require it for life, we have to be able to fix it. I moved to the United States as a graduate student, went to Maine Maritime Academy for a management course. I did quite a few courses over a year. I eventually became a project manager. When I became a project manager, my boss said, you need to get some certification, go sign up for the PMI courses, and I joined the Project Management Institute. And there, as Sherry made some announcements today, someone came up and announced we have a Toastmasters club. Now, I remember my father being an extraordinary speaker when he was with Rotary. So, because of that, I signed up immediately. And here, I discovered an awesome power. The power that most people seem to be oblivious to, the power of public speaking, what a speaker can do, what kind of connection can occur with this art. It's a skill, it's a science, it's no magic. I discovered this. I came to evangelize eloquence. Eloquence is as essential as knowledge. Eloquence is as essential as judgment, as analysis. And a gift from my parents. They always read. I have been fortunate to be a lifelong reader, and everything that I'm going to speak about today, I first came across it either in a book or in an article. Texas Bay Area Society of Human Resources Management. I am honored to be here. This is a new group for me today. I am honored to be here. Sherry, thank you for that kind introduction. I stand before you, grateful for this opportunity to speak about feedback. I stand before you mindful that we are strangers, that we don't really know each other. Nonetheless, we are entangled in a network, in a web of common interests, of common hungers, of common humanity. I stand before you certain that this knowledge on how we can give each other feedback will contribute to us being able to express those common interests, to be able to grow from our common hungers. I have a few tasks today. I'm going to try to be diplomatic, but it's more important that I get the job done. I have to persuade you. At the end of this task, you will be ready, or you will think, or perhaps even hungry to receive more feedback, to give more feedback, and to start creating a culture where feedback is normal. That's not all. We'll do it in 3 forms. I'll call them mild, medium, and hot. So at least this way I give you some leeway. If you say, I can't do this, I say, I got another one for you. And I want to tell you that feedback is a fuel for growth. When I say feedback is a fuel for growth, what I mean, mild feedback. If I give you mild feedback, you will grow. If you seek expert feedback, that and only that is the road to mastery. Find someone who's become a master. I'll show you someone who's had expert feedback. And frequent feedback. Not brutal feedback, not kind feedback, not A feedback, not that feedback. Frequent feedback is the formula for a culture where feedback feels normal. We will watch a couple of videos because no doubt I have an extremely good opinion about myself. I hope you all do too. But these guys are real leaders, and if they say it, well then, you're going to have to take it more seriously. Here are a few key insights. Frequency of feedback is more important than the skill. Let's say I'm just terrible at giving feedback. And say Jim is my friend. Jim is an expert at giving feedback. If Jim gives you expert feedback once a year, and I give you feedback once a day, terrible as it may be, you will grow faster thanks to my presence. Now, this probably is the most important line in the whole presentation. Intention is more important than proficiency or eloquence. If I intend to give you feedback because I want you to improve, I want our company to improve, you will be significantly tolerant of a lack of skill, lack of perceived respect, if you know that this person wants me to improve. Intention is more important than skill. So look into yourself when you're giving feedback and the intention of the person you seek feedback from. It will correlate very highly with success. I don't really need to say this. Sought feedback is far more effective than enforced feedback. Enforced feedback is going through the motions, and do I have the guts to say this? It's probably what's happening in your companies right now. Once a year, someone will come sit down, they'll have their, you go here, you go there, and everyone, done with it, thank God. That's enforced feedback. We will see a few examples where it is sought and how it works. Your task then becomes first to seek feedback. For example, if I would like you to treat me with respect, I start by treating you with respect. If I want to be treated empathetically by you, I give you empathy first. If I want you to listen to me, I should listen to you first. Same goes with feedback. Be better at receiving feedback than at giving it. And be really good at giving feedback too. We will have a few feedback sessions, discussions, because pitching, at the end of the day, what public speakers do is pitch. You can call it all fancy things, motivational, it's pitching. Prototyping is better. Just have a demonstration. Instead of saying, I have the greatest product in the world, just show them the greatest product. So we will try to use this model, prototype instead of pitch. We will try to give each other feedback. Here's a suggestion for taking feedback. If you're going to receive feedback, look at yourself, sorry, I'm an engineer. Consider yourself to be a receiver. Your task is to be like a sponge. This is not a time to process what the person is saying. This is not the time to dispute it. This is not the time to debate it. And it happens before you know what happened. The minute you read feedback, you give a response. So stop. Just receive it. I'm only here to receive it, and this is not a time to respond. If you are skilled at receiving feedback, just receive it. And what I found has helped me is to just fake the body language. Just to show your body language of intense curiosity. I do that all the time. Have anyone seen Amy Cuddy's TED Talk, power posing and stuff? So our body position actually prepares us to be a better receiver. So I try to imagine if I'm getting feedback that I've paid this person $100,000, now I better listen to every single thing he says. So just full concentration, listen really hard. And it's amazing how much more you absorb in return. Don't process it, there will be plenty of time to process it. Better still, if you can record it like we are doing, record it and watch it over and over again. There are gems in feedback that we can't absorb because of our emotional state, especially if we are defensive. Mild feedback. We're going to use a model in that Toastmasters uses called evaluation. Anyone familiar with Toastmasters? This model it's very gentle. It's been amazingly successful for decades. And why? One of the reasons it's immediate. And both are aware that we agree that if I give a speech, I will get some feedback. And even though it seems mild and it's easy to do, it is remarkably effective. So we'll answer only 2 questions. I don't have time to go into this. I can do 15 minutes, half an hour, 1 hour talks on evaluations. In fact, modesty was never my great strength. I happen to have won quite a few contests in Toastmasters all the way, including quite a few at evaluation. People say, he's not too bad. Why and how? Why do we evaluate? Let's be crystal clear. We evaluate for one and one reason alone: improvement. If I'm standing and giving an evaluation to someone in Toastmasters, my goal must be clear. I am here to help this person to improve. How? Follow the golden rule. Treat others as the way you'd like to be treated. Evaluate others the way you'd like to be evaluated. Now, if you like a very rough evaluation, don't take this advice too seriously. Be tuned in so that you can balance your evaluation so that the receiver is getting some benefit. To do this, be objective. And it's all about the performance, not the performer. It would have worked better for me had you not raised your voice so much. It came across as shouting. Don't say you were rude. We are not judging the performer. We are talking about the performance. At this time, I got completely confused. I was paying attention, and then I couldn't make sense of what you were saying. Be objective. That's it. These 2 rules will help you to give remarkably useful feedback, which will be a fuel for, I'm looking for feedback, who is listening to me? Fuel for growth. Practice. Fuel for. And here it's very important to know that you are not a coach. All I'm doing is giving you feedback about how I felt. So this is very clear for me. So if I had to give feedback on this meeting, also in Toastmaster they have a general evaluator who gives feedback on a meeting. Let's say that we want to make this meeting better from 1918. For 2018, we're going to make it better each time. One sure way is everybody gives everybody feedback. What was right here? What went well? Did everybody say hello to everybody? Were we friendly? Were people looking at the phones? If we create a culture of giving feedback, we are just saying what we felt. And we are open to receiving it. But we have to be clear, we are not a coach, we are not a judge. And I said that, pardon my modesty, I might be quite good. One of the reasons that I succeed, I think, is because I have one sacred guideline and one sacred commandment, and I will follow them. And my sacred guideline, it comes from an ancient Arabian quotation. It goes something like this. There should be 3 gatekeepers for our tongues. What we say, is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? I always follow this when I'm giving feedback. And it works. And the second, it's what I call the sacred commandment. I was watching a TED talk by Andrew Stanton. He's from Pixar storytelling. And he said the greatest commandment of storytelling is, make me care. The purpose of storytelling is not to make you comprehend. At the end of it, make me care about what you're saying. And I found that this was a remarkably apt way of thinking of feedback. Make you care before you leave today about giving excellent feedback and even more receiving feedback. I can make you comprehend what feedback is all about. A, B, C, D. Quite simple. To make you care, that is a different challenge. Make you care about feedback. I will leave this room more committed to receiving and giving feedback. It is remarkable. You just have to feel this inside yourself. You don't have to tell anyone. And how much more effective it is, how much more frequently people will approach you. Did this work? Did this not work? And now, it's your turn to give me some feedback on how I've done. But let me give you a couple of examples. I bought a whole bunch of sheets from my other talks. And if you go through this, you will realize that no matter how you plan it, you have no idea what people are receiving. And it is so valuable, I can't tell you. And the part I struggle with most is this feedback, because most people love it. We have group discussion and discuss and debrief. We talk about ideas, but it takes up so much time that managing it is quite tough. So I'm going to go through just a few pieces of feedback. I'll only go to the least effective part or top suggestion for improvement from a few of my talks to give you an idea. I had no idea that this is what the audience felt. Here we go again. Top suggestion, encourage more time for discussion amongst the group. This was for a talk that I did on conflict resolution in Woodlands. The participation from the audience was the least effective part. We did not have enough time to participate. Top suggestion for improvement. We need more time to discuss the key takeaways and experiences. That would have been great. This is for one topic, because in this talk I didn't summarize. I'd summarized before closing, but I ended with giving the audience a challenge. This was a talk to Lone Star College, to the kids about public speaking. See, here's a very good piece. The snacks and the pizza should have been ready before speaking. They distracted the audience. No, it's really important for event planners to know this. Especially if you pay a lot of money and you put out and then you're distracted from the message. Here's another unusual one, maybe a little bit more science. And I think I go overboard on science. So these are college kids who are interested in what I was saying, from a mechanical point of view. Here's a very good one that I didn't expect. In this, I did one of Kennedy's speeches when he told the people to go to the moon, We meet at a college noted for knowledge. But your presentation was kind of loud for me. So it's essential that I know this, essential that I tune in. So now, which brave soul is going to give me some presentation with some feedback? Oh, I'm going to get one from each table. And Jim, not you yet. So, come on, be bold, you can do it. I won't collapse. Yes, sir.
I have a question. When you were talking about not being a coach, I mean, it's hammered into us to coach everything. But are you saying that you do not coach during the feedback session?
Can I put that question on hold till the third point?
Okay.
Because the other 2 points, you are a coach. All right? Excellent question. Come on, I'm not that good.
I say that, I don't know I didn't have to go back to playback, but you get the buy-in quickly. I mean, like where I felt sucked in quickly, which is a positive. Like I didn't want to eat my food because I'm afraid I'm going to miss something.
Whew. I wouldn't want you to deprive you of nourishment. I just have to make this more. Yes, sir.
Well, I commend you on the brevity and how quick you get to the points.
Yes.
Okay, but I'm looking for suggestions for improvement. What didn't work? Okay, let's leave it at this for now. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
I would like an outline or something I can keep notes on.
Okay, thanks. I'll address it later, but point well noted. Yes.
Unfortunately, it's hard to understand you at times due to your heavy accent.
So now this is the kind of feedback. I actually have a solution for it. And if I had known this or thought about it, I would have done it. So here, if you speak to an audience with an accent issue, what really happens is that not that they don't understand you, they don't initially understand you and they tune out. So start speaking very slowly and keep looking to see if people are following you, and slowly you can pick up and they're with you. Thank you for that. So if you're not following me, you and I are going to have some kind of secret coach. Don't tell anyone. All right, but I need this feedback. Thank you.
It is loud.
Sorry?
It is loud.
It is.
It is loud.
Excellent, thanks. I'll make it soft too. All right, so I can take a question or two. Yeah.
I said, what? I can't hear you.
I'm kind of glad it's loud because no offense, it's after lunch and it's the afternoon and we're in a smaller room, but I kind of like it loud. So I don't know for you.
So we'll address this. What feedback do you select? We'll address it in the next topic. Because you can't please everybody, but you can certainly value and respect their feedback, and you can gauge audiences, and over time you see patterns. Yes.
At the point where I understand where when you are receiving feedback, be the sponge, but how much time do you give in between one of those conversations or sessions before you start to respond? Or do you give feedback in return?
We'll address it in the next two. This was basically the Toastmasters model. So sometimes be prepared just to hear what the person is saying. This is the time when you realize that this person is not a coach. They're giving you the favor of letting you know how they received what you transmitted. And was it lined up? I'm transmitting X, and if you're receiving Y, it would be really good for me to know. So that's only in this model. So this is one way of receiving feedback. Now we come to the medium model. Anyone doesn't know who Bill Gates is? He's going to agree with me, or is it the other way around? There was a TED event all about United States education, and it was hosted on PBS National Hour once, and he wasn't even the final speaker, but he spoke about teachers needing feedback. So let Mr. Bill Gates make the case for me.
Everyone needs a coach. It doesn't matter whether you're a basketball player, a tennis player, a gymnast, or a bridge player. My bridge coach, Sharon Osberg, says there are more pictures of the back of her head than anyone else's in the world. Sorry, Sharon. Here you go. We all need people who will give us feedback. That's how we improve.
So this is the second type of feedback. And I'm going to base it on a model by K. Anders Ericsson. Anyone familiar with him? He is by and large considered to be one of the foremost experts on expertise. He spent decades. Why do some surgeons be better than others? Firefighters, musicians, and he's got a whole lab. It's far and away the most famous expertise research operation on the planet. And he is the one who discovered the 10,000-hour rule, which was popularized by Malcolm Gladwell in Outliers. But he found. So what I'll do is a quick summary of an HBR article, but can you read this on the left? New research shows that outstanding performance is the product of years of deliberate practice. Keep these two words in mind. And coaching, not of talent. So someone might have been very good and people said that he's talented, but then as they looked into the data, they found, no, this person practiced, and they practiced, and they practiced. But before going any further, I want to create a slight foundation for you all. Take a look at this. The next 3 slides will be the most technical slides. You'll have to forgive the engineer. He had to put it in. This is good stuff. It's quite straightforward what we're talking of. You will be in one of 3 zones. This is when you're learning. Either you'll be very comfortable and you'll be learning nothing, or you'll be stretching yourself. What's going on here? What's going on? You're paying attention. But after some time, it will become too much and you'll be in panic and you can't learn anymore. We will all be in one of these. So one of them is called stretch, one of them is called snap. If you practice in the learning zone, that is the road to mastery. This is more or less the same diagram. This is called the Yerkes-Dodson curve. It relates how much stress chemical is going on inside of us to how well we perform. It's been around from the early 19th century. So what it says is when we have very low stress chemicals doing their work inside of us, at that point we are bored, indifferent, asleep, we can't really perform. It's only when we start getting that fuel, we're paying attention, something's captured our attention, we want to do better. At that point we are in optimal performance. But beyond it, if the stress chemicals continue to increase, then we can't perform well. So there are 3 ways of describing it. One of them, there is no stress at all. One is called eustress, useful stress. It gives us the energy which makes us work. And the third is called distress. You're just in terrible distress. It's also called between boredom and anxiety, flow. Does everyone grasp this diagram? This is the most technical. Now I'm going to ease off. This is amongst my favorite. This is the same concept, but here we are calibrating skills against challenges. If I have extremely high skill but low challenges, I will be bored. If I have extremely low skill, it doesn't matter. It could be tennis, it could be chess, it could be engineering, it could be mathematics, it could be music. If I have low skill and high challenges, I will be in a state of constant panic. So the idea is to know yourself well enough so that you keep bringing yourself into that zone between boredom and anxiety, which is called flow. Flow is probably the hottest topic on human performance right now. It is the state where you perform your best. And just to give you an example, even though I'm only one person, let's say I was quite good in math, and if you were to give me math problems, if I was neither anxious nor bored, I'd be going like this. But if for some reason I'm having a huge anxiety attack, I will not be able to tell you the answer of 2 plus 2. It's just biology. This is the way we are. So our task as HRs especially would be to see how much time are people in our company between boredom and anxiety. It will be one of the best predictors for how well you are performing. So this is a foundation on which I say all 3 diagrams are the same, but expert feedback always keeps pulling us back into this zone, the learning zone. It's not easy. It requires constant motivation. It requires constant support. It requires constant expert feedback. And here, sir, you are a coach. Very clearly, I am better than you. That is why I'm giving you feedback. Here, the goal to make you improve is based on expertise. You seek out the most expert, the best coaches you can get to the road to mastery. So I'll quickly go over a few points in the article. Outstanding performance is the result of deliberate practice. Lots and lots and lots of it. What is deliberate practice? A lot of intensity, a lot of feedback, and a supportive atmosphere. So for kids who do well, their parents are giving them violin lessons, they're cheering them on, they're going to their concerts. This is all part of development of expertise. So you all as HR, an enthusiastic support, when people are struggling, to help them, to keep them motivated, to be motivated. This is what will result in performance enhancement. This is the road to mastery. And devoted coaches basically is expert feedback. So what do the best performers do according to Anders Ericsson from that article? They are very good at seeking feedback. So if I have become good in public speaking, it will not probably be anything to do with talent. It may be that I practiced a lot and I sought a lot of feedback. And they are skilled at knowing when feedback works and doesn't work. Someone asked a question. So when should you take it? When should you not take it? When should you respond? You have that skill. You know when to receive feedback. You know when it won't work for you. And it's too loud, it's too soft. These are all the skills that you eventually have to pick up. Okay? So that's a very quick summary of an excellent article. Now, have you all heard of a person called Atul Gawande? He's the author of a book called The Checklist Manifesto, Being Mortal. He's a writer for The New Yorker. He's a world-class surgeon. He's very, very well established. And in fact, being mortal it's becoming almost a movement, how to take care of aging parents. But he is in another TED Talk. Listen to him, please.
I don't come to you today as an expert. I come to you as someone who has been really interested in how I get better at what I do and how we all do. I think it's not just how good you are now, I think it's how good you're gonna be that really matters. How do professionals get better at what they do? How do they get great? And there are 2 views about this. One is the traditional pedagogical view. That is that you go to school, you study, you practice, you learn, you graduate, and then you go out into the world and you make your way on your own. Now, the contrasting view comes out of sports. And they say, you are never done. Everybody needs a coach. Everyone, the greatest in the world, needs a coach. So I tried to think about this as a surgeon. Pay someone to come into my operating room, observe me, and critique me. It seems absurd. Expertise means not needing to be coached. So then which view is right? I decided to ask, of all people, Itzhak Perlman. So we ended up having an almost 2-hour conversation about how he got to where he got in his career. And I asked him, I said, why don't violinists have coaches? And he said, I don't know, but I always had a coach. Okay, I'll try a coach. So I asked a former professor of mine who had retired, his name is Bob Osteen, and he agreed to come to my operating room and observe me. The case, I remember that first case, it went beautifully. I didn't think there would be anything much he'd have to say when we were done. Instead, he had a whole page of dense with notes.
So what's the seek coaches? And again, instead of pitching, I've asked my friend to come here specifically to demonstrate. So make me care. And he's coming here with dense with notes. So let's try to get feedback from someone that is immediate. Jim Benway is a speaker and he's a leader in PMI. He's been electrical engineer and led many departments. And be kind, but don't take it too seriously.
So, oh, by the way, when do I get the 100K? You mentioned that earlier. First thing I noticed, Rashid, was that you tended to stand here a lot, and you tended to face in that direction and turn a little. And I thought when you finally moved over here, that you would reverse the position and look here. But even when you were over here, you still had a tendency to look at this half of the audience. You had a good humour. You brought out humour into the various aspects. You got a few laughs and you drew the audience out. You also engaged audience members individually. You came up to them and went to this lady and spoke to her directly. So that was good that you engaged them, drew them out. I noticed you did the looking down and speaking thing, which we always speak about. Everybody that does speaking has a tendency to, and I'll try and not do it. Reading your notes, and we all tend to do that. So again, the effort is to try and glance and look up and then speak to the audience. You also did a similar thing when you were reading the screen, when the thing was over here. You actually looked at it and read it. It might be advantageous if you had that memorized or on a large sheet somewhere else. And the final point I notice is that sometimes when you are speaking, you run the words together, especially if you are doing a list where you say, so-and-so wrote a book on history, economics, and such. You tend to run the words a little bit together. But other than that, I believe you definitely engaged the audience and did very well.
So I'm going to hold you to the spot for a bit. I'm going to stand here. I'm going to ask you to solicit feedback from the audience for me. Have any of you all ever coached a speaker? Is there anyone who is even remotely close to being an expert? Any one suggestion that could make this more effective?
I think to Jim's point, and again, this room's a little smaller, but maybe moving within the audience a little bit more. And I think that would be more effective too if you were in a larger environment, and maybe that's your normal pattern in a larger setting, so that way you can connect with people that may be further back in the audience.
Okay, thank you. And can you see how useful this is? Soliciting and getting feedback immediately. Thank you very much, Jim. And Brittany has been my videographer. I'd like to give you some feedback. I shouldn't do this, but she's an awesome videographer, and she's been taking care of me for a long time. So Brittany, how can I improve? Put you on the spot.
Well, like you said, I've seen several of your talks before, and while it may go against some other feedback you've gotten, I do like it. It seems more interactive when you can talk to people and let people kind of talk amongst themselves to generate more ideas about what you just summarized. I think, I know for me, anytime that you spoke about something and then kind of summarized and, okay, let's do a project amongst yourselves, talk about this, it seemed like a good reflection time. So personally, when I'm sitting and listening to someone speak, I kind of like the interaction instead of just being spoken to. So I think more.
Okay, so we're going to actually build that in right now. I'm going to give you all, each table, 30 seconds. Discuss amongst yourself, what is the top takeaway you've received so far? 30 seconds, starts now.
Frequency is more important than skill.
And for me, it is critiquing the performance.
Ten seconds to go. Okay, time. Let's start with that table. Top takeaway from that table, or one takeaway.
Frequency versus skill. That constant feedback, whether it's sought or not, is better than once a year surprises.
Okay. This table.
Well, I like the 100K. That's it. Something like
100K, 10,000 hour practice.
Listen to them as if they're fake.
They're giving me, I paid you 100K.
Oh, okay. Oh, you'll all think small. Why not 100 million? Okay, thanks. This table?
We've turned evaluations into a chore, not a part of who we are and what we are.
The third section will really address that. Thank you. This table?
We talked about that we're coaching also. So as coaches, we learned that what resonated was about the sponge. Being able to listen and be able to pay attention to that. And be able to
In fact, I'll give you something. This is from a book called The Alliance. It's from How Silicon Valley Does Interviews. I'd never seen this before, but they talk to the interviewer, say, tell me in 3 to 5 minutes your life story. What made you what you are? What's your new business? And then the interviewer answers the question first. That totally gets a completely different answer than you would. So when you're coaching, if you're willing to take some feedback first, it's a very good formula. Which takes us to the heart. But really, this is about frequency more than anything else. Anyone familiar with this term, the after-action review? Really? Oh dear, I've got to make sure you never forget this. Seriously, I have to make sure you don't forget this. Vietnam War. Let's say the first planes came out sometime in World War I. They went as reconnaissance flights. Then they started putting guns. Then they started going into dogfights. By the end of World War I, planes were up against each other. World War II, it went to a state of an art. Planes getting in close contact, trying to shoot each other down. Then the United States said, what can we do? So they came up with, we don't want guns, we want missiles. Before you come close for a dogfight, we'll knock you out. In Vietnam, the United States had an extraordinary advantage with planes. And yet, the performance was abysmal. In World War I, World War II, the kill rate was 5 to 10. So for every plane we lose, we take 5 out. In Vietnam, despite an extraordinary advantage, for both the Navy and the Air Force, independent, the kill rate was 2:1, 2.5:1. It got so bad that they said, finished, we're not going to do this anymore. And they created a school. We're going to start something and we're going to figure out what we're doing wrong. And they got together a group of people and they said, you need to fix this problem. And what they started doing is they created a training center, and everything Everything is going to be recorded. There's no he said, she said, I thought, you thought. It's on record. If I shot a bullet and it missed, it's on record. If I did X, Y, Z, it's on record. If we were doing an after-action review here, this entire talk would be recorded. Everyone would be recorded. So we know how we are actually performing, not what we think we are doing. Step 1 of the training. Step 2, use the equipment that is as real as possible. Now, if I had come into this room and practiced a little bit more, I wouldn't be making the errors that Jim pointed out and Sherry pointed out. So you get familiar with the equipment. Prior to this, the United States was practicing with F4s against F4s. Then they somehow or the other, they bought, begged, borrowed, stole, whatever they did, but they got the Russian MiGs and they started using them. So when you're doing a task, try to make it as realistic as possible. And third, immediately after the exercise, there is a review. Immediately. So if we were to do this in this meeting, the meeting organizers, the speakers, key members of the audience would get together and say, what can we do to make this meeting better? You can do this at the end of every single meeting of yours. Helmets down is a concept that once we're going into review, everyone takes your helmet, and this symbolizes that there are no ranks. Now, if you heard something, you know something, you speak. This is no time for gentleness and kindness. You give us feedback because your feedback might well save a soldier's life. If a commander has made a mistake and you don't speak, it is your job to call up the commander and say, I observed this mistake. There are no ranks, first. Second, if you're in that room, you participate. You don't get to sit down. You participate. You say what you saw. And one goal, was the objective achieved? Did we accomplish the mission? That is what we are reviewing. Like the evaluations, it has to be immediately after or even in subsections. We don't assign grades. We don't judge the performer. We just look at the performance. We're not here to say you did well or not. Did you achieve what you said you would do? If you came into the audience and you said, I'm going to pay attention, I say, yes, you paid attention. Oh, no, I saw you watching the iPhone. This is what I mean. We are obligated to give feedback. And the key is candor. If I said that was the most important slide, this is the second most important point. The entire exercise works on this. The key is candor. Will everyone speak up? Performance is measured at 3 levels. Did the soldiers do their task? Did the leader do their task? Did the unit do their task? I'll say this again. Comments are candid. If we don't do this, we might as well not do the exercise. Where did we go wrong? We have to find out. How can we do better? What can we do better? That is the purpose. Objective achieved. Where did we go wrong? What can we do better? You probably see this across many organizations. The after-action review has become a standard. So this is just one chart I found, but there will be hundreds. You can go to the net. If you take another key takeaway from this, start after-action reviews at your work, at your day, at your meetings. They are transformative. The real key is candor. I'll say this again. Discussion is brutally honest. They keep on and on saying this. This is the term that is used. If we don't do this, we might as well not have the discussion. And that school became Top Gun. The Navy did this. You remember Atul Gawande saying one is a coaching, one is a pedagogical model? The Air Force said, no, our training is fine. After they resumed operations, the Air Force was still at 2 to 2.5 kills to 1. The Navy went from 10 to 12. There was a 5-fold increase. Normally 5% improvement is good. 5 times is unheard of. This started a revolution after Vietnam. The Air Force said, we have to do it. The Army said, we have to do it. But as will happen in many of your organizations, there was a lot of resistance in the Army. I mean, the Army is as hierarchical, and you don't speak to your bosses and you don't tell them that they made mistakes. Even when they've made mistakes, you don't tell them. That had to be corrected. How did the Army come about this? And here is where you might have your opportunity. They had a champion. General Gorman, he said, I am going to do what I must. We are going to make this part of the Army. And he started doing exercises. This meeting, there's no feedback. That meeting, there is feedback. Which meeting was better? These people got feedback while doing this engineering operation. Those people did not get feedback. Who was better? And he collected data, and he made the case, and he made the case. And this Over and over across multiple books I have read, the AAR is what truly transformed the Army. Today, it is everywhere they go, it is a standard practice. So if we were doing an AAR for this meeting, after this meeting, we'd all get together. What can we do better? What worked, what didn't work? And it's not just happening only in the Army. I recently read a book called The Undoing Project. It's all about psychologists and how we are changing the way we are thinking. So apparently we make a lot of errors. We think intuitively. For example, if there are 23 people here, what are the odds the two of us share a birthday? Now, intuitively, you all will all come up with your guesses, but it's actually a little bit more than 50%. Or if I take 11 people and say, how many ways can I seat you all? The answer is more than 3 million. So we have good judgment, but there are some times when our cognitive systems don't work. And these errors are built in. So what this trauma hospital, the biggest trauma hospital in Canada did, is they got this guy who's a decision error expert, and he would just stand and watch teams of trauma surgeons. And he would see them making mistakes. They would reach a wrong conclusion. This person's ribs are cracked, or this person doesn't have that. And he would know why they are making that mistakes. And that was an error that he caught. And that's how they saved many lives. It is becoming normal. It is becoming normal to have someone to look at you and give you feedback. So that's the third method. Frequency all the time. Let's summarize what we've done. I want you to care. I really want you to care about this. That I will receive more feedback. I will give more feedback. And we must create a culture where feedback is normal. Now, you all gave me feedback. Did I evaporate? Did I vanish? It's no big deal. Any one of you could be doing here. Any of you could be leading a meeting. Ask for feedback. Did you really understand what I said? We have 3 methods of giving it, so you have plenty of options. Mild, it is a fuel for growth. If you want mastery, seek expert feedback. If you want a culture of feedback, make it frequent. We want it more and more and more and more feedback. Most important slide. If you forget everything else, please remember this. Frequency is more important than skill and intention. We are here to get better. I'm not here to love you. It's better if I do, but we are here in a company to get better at what we do. If we have lots of respect and affection and admiration, that's all good. But the intention, we are here to get better. Give it kindly, give it this way, give it that way. We are here to get better. So here's your challenge. This is your call to action. I don't really know whether you will. Will you? Will you promise yourself that I will receive more feedback, I will give more feedback, I will give feedback more frequently? This is the call to action from this entire talk. Questions you can ask yourself. Who can I go to for A+ feedback? Who will give me A+ feedback? I want this to start stinging you. Who will give me A+ feedback? Who needs my A+ feedback? Which department in my company? Which group of people are so arrogant or they think they are very good? Actually, engineers, frequently, they're so tuned into their own world that they don't realize how much out of communication they're with each other. And yet, when you get to know them, they are amongst the nicest, fairest, most decent guys. And I'm not saying this with a bias. It is once you get into their world, they have to think logically and clearly all the time. This is which department needs our feedback. Listen, you guys are really good, but you're not reaching the rest of the company. This is your task as HR managers. Couple of minutes for questions. Any questions? And now I better walk around and listen to everything that you all said. No, seriously, any questions?
I have a question. Is this content available for us in some kind of form, soft copies? So
just first, she's recording it. I'll make it available to you all so you all can watch it anytime. It will be available on my site. You have my business cards out there. Please, actually, if you all don't mind, when you're giving me your feedback forms, then please don't leave without giving me some feedback, at least not this talk. And if you would leave your business cards, that would be great. So yes, you tell me what you want, I'll send it to you. These files are very big, so I'll give you a PDF copy, sure.
So of course, we're in that culture where we do our annual reviews maybe a little more frequently. What suggestions do you have for our organization to shift that culture, to get the buy-in from our senior leadership that it's not just about that end-of-year form?
Well, at a very shameless self-promotion, get people like me in. And say that we have to speak bluntly. Outsiders can speak more bluntly, but you start doing it in your meetings. this whole thing about top leadership, there's a really interesting book called The Evolution of Everything by Scott Ridley, where he argues that we only think that the leaders are deciding, but all change takes place from down. So you're having a meeting, you start. We saw a good this thing, can we try it today? Everybody just tell us what we can do next time for the meeting. So start building it in informally. Then I would say that if you don't have a Toastmasters club, try to set up one, because there's a constant culture of feedback. I started a club in my company. I went to every department and I said, I want you to send one person, I want you to sit next to someone you don't know, and I expect a leader from the department to be there. And I wasn't their boss. And just say it anyway. It didn't work out very well, and shortly after I left, it worked okay, but after I left the company, the whole thing fell. So I wasn't able to develop the leadership. But go for it. Be bold. Trust yourself. If you do it frequently, you make the same requests frequently, your intentions are good, you will see results. And have some metrics. After this meeting, we had a discussion. After this meeting, we had an AAR, or we didn't. Answer your question? Thanks. Yes, ma'am.
In the new time that we're in now with millenniums and social media and all the technology, how do you engage people to talk? Because now they're on their phones, they send you texts, they send you emails. So how can you keep the younger folks engaged so that they can grow up to be leaders and develop?
Absolutely fabulous question. Daniel Goleman, I recently read his book again called Focus, where he said that now in Silicon Valley, they're telling the guys, you come to a meeting, you leave your phone outside. Because we can't do two things. You guys may be really smart. You got one brain and either you pay attention or you don't. So start getting buy-in for that. Let's not have the meeting if you're bringing your phone here. You're here to pay attention. So be a little bit bold, have good intentions, and also I would say don't look at it too much from the millennial and this, because we are not that different. Everyone wants to do well. We might have to figure out how to get to the same base motivation. So do you want to improve? How can I help you? Are you willing to give me feedback? And if the meeting is full of phones, you ask, guys, how was this meeting? But someone has to be willing to lead it, or bring an outsider, or someone who will say, this is what I thought of your meeting. But slowly start doing exactly what we're doing in this room today. This is not rocket science, but you may have to be bold and go for it. Make sense? Just constantly seek feedback. Tell them stories about the after-action review. So I want now to close it with a case review from Harvard Business Review. I think you've got everything that I've said. How to make feedback feel normal. This article just left me stunned. Our author is Joseph Grenny, and clearly I found a picture of him on the web, so he's quite a big shot. And despite Jim's feedback to me, I want to read this out to you to set up the case of what he found and how we're going to do it. My research over the last 30 years, this is Joseph Grenny, has shown that we can largely predict the health of an organization by measuring the average time lag between identifying a problem and discussing a problem. You want to know how a company is doing? When do they identify a problem? When do they discuss it? That will tell you more than anything else, according to him, from 30 years of work. There is a company called the Other Side Movers. In this company, the lag time is as close to zero as I have ever seen. I've spent much of my career teaching people how to have crucial conversations, how to provide feedback, and I've realized lately that a lot of my work could have been avoided if everyone, especially the leaders, had understood one simple fact. The primary reason that people struggle with giving feedback is not proficiency, but frequency. Our number one lesson. I learned this a surprising way. Now listen carefully. Over the past year, I watched a group of 50 convicts, hardcore drug addicts, and the homeless people start 3 highly successful companies, one of which is the Other Side Movers. So what he says is he goes as a coach to this organization where they're trying to reduce recidivism. We want to give you skills so that you can work and not come back to jail. It's a huge problem in America right now, actually almost everywhere in the world. So these people get together and they form a company called the Other Side Movers. 50 convicts and business of 1 million in a year, and they started 3 companies and the other 2 are on track. Why? Because feedback is normal. That is what is different about this company. How did they do it? Feedback is normal. They have a core value, 200% accountability. I am 100% accountability for my work. If I'm a speaker and you're the audience member, I'm 100% responsible for being a speaker. You're 100% responsible for creating an atmosphere where everyone else works. The other 100%, I am accountable for your work. 100%. If you are not paying attention, I'm accountable for it. This is the company, this is the value that they chose to have. They have a concept called pull up, pass up, patch up. If I see Jim hasn't done something, Jim, sorry, you were not supposed to speak to this lady like that, and it's the way you spoke to her. Pull up, pass up. I'm sorry, I am going to have to tell your supervisor. Feedback is instant patch up. Jim, we're on the same side. We got to make this work. This is every day, all the time. Pull up, pass up, patch up. This is the way in which they give instant feedback. I'm on a job with you, and you don't stick to the mission, I will pull you up. It's 100% my responsibility. No personal freedom business out here. The mission and the way we behave. Then they have something called the game. Everyone sits down together, form a circle, and hey Jim, how did you do this week? What did you see wrong? And you should read some of the discussion in the HBR. You know, if one man is ogling at a woman, and they all just jump on him. You are doing it. I don't do it. Yes, you are doing it. He said it becomes completely brutal. But when 4 or 5 people say you are behaving this way, they agree. And this is happening twice a week. And this game is what he said to answer your question. Just have them read this article and say, can we have a game once a month? And finally, customers, this is a lift from the article. Customers are stunned by the impeccable courtesy of this unusual group. So this is not Rashid Kapadia coming and giving you some theoretical nonsense out here. In fact, had I not read this article, I might not have converted this to a speech. But here it works. Feedback is normal. So this is the third most important slide. Top 3. Are you ready to find out who can give you A+ feedback? Are you ready to find a person or a department that needs your A+ feedback? No, are you really ready to do that? Are you ready to get into that stretch zone? Are you ready to go into eustress? Are you ready to put boredom aside and stretch yourself till you're close to anxiety? Second most important slide, candor, candor, candor. Yes, you can be blunt, you can be this, you can be that. If it is honest and your intentions are, we must improve as a group, it will be well received. Discussions, if they are brutally honest, well, you've got plenty of company. A lot of the best AARs have worked here. Most important slide, frequency is more important. You must care about giving feedback. Make me care. Make the person you're listening to care about why we are giving feedback. We want to be better. We want this meeting to be better. We want our department meetings to be better. We want our products to be better. Make me care. Intention, intention. We want to build the best companies. We want to be the best groups. Intention to give feedback is most important. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Brittany with B Miles Media, and I've been filming Rashid's presentations for quite some time now. And I think what makes him stand out as a speaker from any of the other corporate events that I've shot is how captivating he is. He's really engaging with his audience, both in his presence and in his information, and I think that's just really unique for a speaker. My favorite topic that he spoke on has been on flow. And I think it's because it can apply to anybody in the work that they do or that they want to get better at. And so it allowed me to follow up about the topic in his book, which I'm really grateful for. And I think he puts just the right amount of humor as well as history into his presentations that he's very obviously passionate about. And so you're really drawn into what he's saying, and then you end up learning a lot in the end, which I think is something that is kind of a breath of fresh air in today's presentations. He's very passionate about all of the talks that I have filmed, and it really comes across in his presentation. He has so much knowledge and he does such a great job of sharing it. Thank you.